Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. In today's video we will be looking at the September XSS challenge of integrity, and with this challenge you could win up to 300 euros of swag. However, the challenge has now concluded, so this is the write-up solving it. You can still try the challenge on challenge-0921.integrity.io. Let's get into it. So first things first, we have this page. And if we scroll down, we see we have a password manager 101. This seems to be an embedded page or an iframe, so let's check that out in inspect, elements, and if we do that, we see that this is indeed an iframe. So we can go to that /challenge/manager.html page that was being embedded, and now we just have the page in full here. So we see that we can enter a password and we have an add button. If we add it, when it's empty, it says, please provide a password. If we provide some text here, it says, uh-oh, I need a parameter, maybe look at the source code. So let's do that. Let's look at the source code here. So I'm going to open this up and make this nice and large. Okay. And then in the debugger, under challenge, we have manager.js and sweetalert.min.js. Now the sweet alert is the alert pop-up that you see, so that's not really of interest for now. However, this manager.js is interesting. And if we look at it, we see that this file is huge and it's very much obfuscated. I mean, this is 1,500 lines of obfuscated JavaScript. We are not going to de-obfuscate all of this, so we need to be smart. What can we do? Well, we can find out what code is being run when we try to add a password and see what is happening and where vulnerabilities might be and stuff like that. In order to do that, I'm just gonna go to this add button here, and on that element we can see that an event is tied to it, which is a click event. So if we click this button, something will happen here and this function will run. So I can go to that in the manager script, and that's right here. And then I can, for example, set a breakpoint. Now, we set this breakpoint, so now if I press the add button, it will pause on this breakpoint, and that's really cool. Let's quickly look through this function to see what happens. We have this if here, which does some things. We have this else, some more things, and then we have the end. So this is not that big of a function, so it might be useful to reverse that. Okay, how are we going to reverse that? Well, we have this first if, and it's gonna do something, and then it's gonna run this, and it's very obfuscated, it's very hard to see, but we can, for example, try to run this, and now we can see that this 0x5195 is a huge array filled with strings. So all of the strings are contained within there. So let's see what this string says, and we can do that by just going into our console here and just pasting that in, and that's then gonna say, okay, this string says please provide a password. So my guess is then that this if is going to check if a password was supplied. Now we supply a password, so we end up in this else. And so let's put the breakpoint there, and let's see if that happens. Yes, that happens. Okay. Now we have this part here, and it's another if, some very weird stuff going on, and still if we fail this if, we go into the else, and this is another swal, which I guess stands for sweet alert. So okay, that's some more information. This will be another sweet alert with text, and we know that if we look at this, then that will be the text, and this text is I need a parameter, maybe look at the source code. Okay, so it seems like we want to enter this if. However, we do not know how. Well, let's just check out what is happening here. So we have the window object, and on that window object we are going to take some things. That's what these braces are for. So if I, for example, you have window dot let's say location. Window.location runs like that. However, we can also do window brace with the quotes and then the string location. That also works, and that is what is happening here. So okay, let's look at this first string. I'm just going to copy it and take a look at it. And this is indeed window.location. Okay, what is happening then? We're going to do something else. On window.location, we are going to do href. Window.location.href is our URL that we supplied. All right. Moving on, we also have on that href, we're then going to do something else. On that href, we're going to do an indexOf, which is obviously a function. And we see then that we have parentheses here, which means that we are going to run that function with an argument. And the argument is going to be $password equals. Okay, so we are going to take the index of password $password equals, which is -1 in this case, because that string does not occur in our URL. And we want this to evaluate the true, so we want that result to be bigger than this number. Well, let's evaluate that number. We want that to be bigger than 0. So what this if pretty much says is, well, your URL has to contain $password equals, and then you will pass this if. So that's amazing. Let's see if we can do that. So let's change the URL to say $password equals, and let's do integrity. Enter. Okay. Now we can enter a password again, and we end up on our breakpoint. Let's jump over that, and now we enter this if loop. So we've already continued. Let's see what happens now. Okay, so our code finished running, and now it added Amsterdam_coffee shops to this list here, which is interesting. Okay. So something is being added to the DOM, which is cool to know. Let's see what is going on here. So I add a new password. And now I want to find out when this thing is added to the DOM, so that we can see where the data comes from. So let's jump over this here. Now the code is creating this variable L, and what will be contained in there? Oh, integrity, the string integrity, which is our password get parameter value. So okay, this takes our password get parameter value. It's then gonna run this function e with our get parameter as the value, and if that is equal to not equal array, which evaluates the true. So if that is true, then we are going to create this m variable, which is the base64 decoded version of our string. Otherwise, m is going to be equal to this, Amsterdam_coffee shops. Well, we saw that already. So maybe m is our message here that is being shown. Okay, very interesting. I notice that there is a potential path where we control m, and m is being shown. And where is m being shown? Well, let's find out. So scrolling down here, we see that m is being used here in this part. So document, in this row, or in this column, m is being used. So let's see what m is being used for. So it's going to do document.querySelector, document.querySelector for #passwords. In the inspector, we can see that #passwords is a div here. Okay, so it's gonna take that div. What is it gonna do with that div is a question. It is going to do the .inner HTML, okay, and then it's gonna write something to that inner HTML. It's gonna start with an empty string, and then start a new div. Then it's gonna do this anti-hacker codes of our input, and well, our input was just shown earlier, so I don't know what that does, but it does something. And then it's probably gonna end the div here, I suppose. But the biggest thing to take away here is that our input might get shown here, and that is an inner HTML. So that means that XSS is possible if we get our input in there. Okay, getting arbitrary input in there means that we have to set this m variable here from this a to b, so we need to understand this e function. So I'm going to jump to there, And let's see what happens here. I'm going to put a breakpoint right there. And let's go here. So we have our string integrity. And we need this function to return true. Let's take a look at all the return values here. So we have one return here that is return I with J and Q. And let's see if Q is assigned anywhere. Yeah, here we would assign Q. Okay. And in order to get there, this if would have to evaluate it true, but this if is just of static values. So, okay, let's just see if that evaluates it true. No, that doesn't. Okay, so we cannot reach this return. This return is false, I guess. Yes, that's also false. And then there's one less return that we need to end up. So we need to make sure that we end up here because that's our only shot of getting of returning true. Okay, cool. So first of all, we have this if that we are at right now, and this is just static values again. So that's strange. If we jump over that, okay, we just end up there. Now we're going to have this variable m, which will contain 9, which seems to be the length of our integrity string. So okay, the length. Then we have another if here that we have to make sure that it is not true, because we don't want to enter this here because this will only return false. So we need to make sure that this is false. So first of all, not m, well, not 9 is false, so that's good. Then we have this m modulus something is not equal to that, and that seems to end up as true, so we need to make sure that this part becomes false, and then this last part is already false, so that's great. So we only need to make sure that we change the m variable so that it modulus 4 is equal to 0. Now what does that mean? Well, 9 modulus 4 is 1, so that's not equal to 0. However, 8 modulus 4 is 0. So our m, or length of our input, has to be a multiple of 4. So 4, 8, 12, 16, and so on. Okay, and once that is the case, then we would pass on to this part and we would potentially return true. So let's try that out. Let's make this length, make our password 1234, which is a length of 4, so that's good. Enter a new password. In our function again, in our if function, we're gonna jump through this. Are we gonna pass this if now? Yes, we are. That's cool. Now we are creating this n constant. Let's see what that ends up being. It ends up being -1, okay. And let's see what we are going to be returning here. So I'm just going to copy this whole string, this whole thing, and run it. And we are going to be returning true, which is great because that's what we wanted. So let's go back here. Now we are going to run our base64 decode on our input, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. And I have no idea what that is going to end up being. Let's see. Okay, yeah, this weird string, XMO it seems, but weird characters. And then we end up in our document .inner.html or input place where we can have our HTML injection, potentially, is going to run now. Okay. And if we look, we see that our string is now in the DOM here. Or our base64, the base64 decoded version of our string is in the DOM, which is super cool. So we know that we can have input using inner HTML and putting it there. So let's try a simple payload. For that, I'm going to use CyberChef because we need to base64 encode it. So let's do 2 base64 and let's have a payload of image source equals hashtag, so that will throw an error, and then our on error will run alert document.domain and then close this. Okay, we see that the length of our base64 is 56. Which is a multiple of 4, so that's great. I think base64 will always end up having a multiple of 4 as a length. Not too sure on that, but that might be the case. But all we have to do now is paste it in as our password, and now add a new password here. And yeah, now we have some breakpoints that we have to get through, obviously. But if we run that, we see that our image seems to be included, but we don't get this pop-up. Damn it, what is going on? Well, let's take a look at this image. And well, the result in our image element only has the source set to hashtag. It doesn't have the onError attribute, which is strange because we obviously supplied that. So seemingly something is removing XSS payloads from anything that we are doing. Interesting. Let's go back to the code here and let's take a look at that. So I'm just gonna run this again so I get back to this breakpoint. Perfect. And then we had this document where we were setting it, and here we had this anti-hacker codes, which was using our input M. Okay, let's take a look at this thing. Oh, I clicked somewhere wrong. Yeah, let's take a look at this anti-hacker codes and see what it's doing to our beautiful string. Okay, so I'm just gonna pass this a string ABC, and it returns ABC. However, if I pass it image source onError equals alert 1, it will remove our alert or our onError attribute. So yeah, this is doing some sanitization, which is not what we want, because we need some access to end up here. So let's take a look at this object anti-hacker codes. We see that that's a function here. What thing are we running on that? We are running mcast ms filter on that. Okay. We see it has a version 2.0.8, and let's jump to this function to see how big it is and how possible it would be to reverse that or run through it ourselves. And we see that this is quite big, so I wouldn't want to run through this obfuscated code manually like we did earlier. But the fact that this has a version already kind of signifies that this might be some code that we can find online. Because obviously if it was just for this challenge, then why would there be a version attribute? So let's check that out. We know that this is a JavaScript sanitization kind of thing. So let's just look at the most popular JavaScript sanitization libraries and see if we find that version. So let's do JavaScript library sanitize. Okay, we have sanitize HTML. Really, I just want a list of libraries. Can we get that? That might be a list. Let's see, on npm we should be able to search for tags or something. Let's search for sanitize. Can I search for like a tag? This is an exact match. Here, sanitize as a tag. Okay, keyword sanitize. Nice. Okay, let's take the top 5 here. So validator, XSS, express validator, DOMPurify, and sanitize file name. No, file name is not something that we want to do. Sanitize HTML. Okay. Sanitize HTML. Do you have a version 2.0.8? And no, it doesn't, so that's most likely not going to be it. Validator 2, that would have to be 6 years ago already. No 2.0.8, so close that. XSS doesn't even have version 2 yet, so okay. Express validator has, oh, this has a lot of 2s, but no 2.0.8. And then DOMPurify has a 2.0.8. Okay, 2 years ago, so that's feasible, I guess. Let's see if maybe there's any public exploits for that. So let's search DOMPurify 2.0.8, and then we can search for a bypass. And we see that this might be a bypass, so let's click this. Mutation XSS via namespace confusion, DOMPurify under version 2.0.17, so that's our version. And then we have the bypass here. Now note that this is a full article which contains really interesting information. We're not going to go into that in the video, we're just going to use the bypass, but I highly suggest you read through this because this will teach you a lot of new stuff. But yeah, let's copy that, and let's base64 that. Oh, I did not copy that. Alright. Base64 that. I want to change this on error. Wait, let's remove these weird things here. And change this on error to be alert document dot domain. And now if all is well and if that DOMPurify library is actually the one that's being used, then this should give us a pop-up. Let's remove my breakpoint here so that I can just add things. Yes. Let's enter our base64 payload as the password get parameter, and let's enter a random password and trigger that. And now we see that we actually get our XSS alert box with the correct domain name, and that is amazing. That is how we solved this challenge. If you solved it in a different way, I would love to know as well. What we pretty much did is we saw that we had a very big obfuscated file, and instead of looking through it and deobfuscating all of it, we were selective. We worked smart, not hard. We looked through the parts that are actually being run and looked at where do we want to end up and how do we get there. And that's, in my opinion, one of the better ways to go through big obfuscated code bases. So yeah, if you have any other tips that you would like to share, any place where you got stuck, then let us know down below in the comments. Also, if you have an amazing idea for an XSS challenge or a challenge, another type of challenge, be sure to email us or message us on our Discord server because we would love to have you host the next XSS challenge or any other challenge on the Integrity platform. Now, that was it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you back for another one. Take care, guys.